Yo, what's up? So I'm gonna be going over the units that is the highest priority for you to summon. First off, you summon for units that you find fun. What I'm going to be suggesting is units that's going to give you better mileage for your account and is going to be better for various aspects of the game, right? There are 6 units that we have currently. In the original server, we have Mavis, Archibald, Tang, Xuan, and then in the PTR server, we have the new unit Jin Qiu, we have Ggez, and also Mateo. So I'm gonna go over first. The number 1 priority unit is going to be Mavis. I'm gonna keep it brief as well because there's a lot of units to cover. She has a anti-death mechanic that has no counter currently. The only counter to her is just to kill her off first. So if you go to Point War or even in Knockout, you will see her everywhere. Mavis, Mavis, Mavis. You refresh, she's gonna be in pretty much at least one of the team. She doesn't have a counter, unlike Cecilia, right? You don't see a Cecilia all that often anymore. Mavis is a better version of Cecilia. She can revive infinitely as long as she is alive. Whereas Cecilia, her revive only procs once per battle, most of the time, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, because it's on a very long cooldown of 7 turns. And you're gonna be building Cecilia very slowly as well. So most of the time she's only going to proc the revive once per turn, and she gets countered by Tever just like that because she cannot revive anymore, right? Whereas Mavis, Tever doesn't actually kill the unit, ends up not recycling his S3 all that often. Tolan doesn't counter her unless you play on manual, and people don't play on manual anymore because it's such a hassle. Because most of this Emma comps, she is not the fastest in the team. The fastest in the team is either going to be a Jin Qiu or anyone else. Even a Heng Yue is going to be faster than her because they don't want Mavis to be targeted by Tolan's S3. So in PvP, she is the meta currently. In Knockout, you will see her everywhere. In Point War, you will see her everywhere. But in PvE is where she kind of lacks a little bit. She has only seen use in the Counter Sonica Team 1. My guildmate actually founded this strat, which is Acne. So you run the Emma or Mavis in the first team. What she does is she just gives the extra crit damage and your team cannot die unless she dies, right? So yeah, that's why she's really good in Sonica. But aside from that, she doesn't see much use in PvE. Maybe in some future trials where the boss does a lot of damage, then she could be useful. But yeah, aside from that, even in trials, sometimes you don't really want to use her because then you take a 100% crit chance from the boss because she puts that debuff on you, right, with the holiday rest. She is still the number 1 priority, even though she lacks like PvE usage currently, because she has no counters in PvP. And yeah, even her priority goes above Changji in my opinion as well. The second priority unit is going to be Archibald, and this is only if you went for Mavis. So if you have enough to go for 2, I would say Mavis plus Archibald is going to be worth it. And the reason is because right now, or rather in the PTR server, they let out a notice that says Hyde no longer works with Mavis, which is previously one of the best teams that you can run, because then Hyde cannot die and he cannot be stunned, he cannot be everything, right? He cannot be debuffed. If the enemy has AP control, then he's going to be immortal for forever, pretty much. In the future, Hyde will no longer work with Mavis. This spot right here, you want to swap it up with an Archibald, because Archibald gives Mavis a 25% damage reduction in a way, because he absorbs 25% of incoming damage that is coming from Mavis. And this team comp heavily relies on Mavis surviving for as long as possible. If you're going up a matchup against like a Mavis versus a Mavis, the Mavis that dies first is going to lose. So with an Archibald in your team giving her 25% damage reduction, she will actually survive for a longer period of time. And also the Carnival Heat actually procs, so she's going to do some damage. It's not a lot, it's just like a bit of damage. And also Archibald can proc his Carnival Heat, which gives you AP, right? Archibald also works very well with Hilda. If you're going up against a Jin Qiu team and you run a Hilda with an Archibald, the Jin Qiu in the enemy cannot cleanse because she got silenced. And with all the poison debuffs that Hilda does, Jin Qiu will actually kill herself because she keeps gaining a turn because her allies keeps getting a stack of poison on on themselves. Archibald without Mavis works very well in the Hilda comp. He provides strip, he provides true damage based on max HP, and most importantly, he provides the silence. So he counters Jin Qiu when paired up with Hilda. In PvE, he doesn't see much use outside of towers. You can still maybe use in Falsetto Fantasy Dark Starlord in one of the Team 2 or Team 3, because he does provide a buff block, but not many people do run him in any of the bosses because he's an AoE character. So AoE characters don't really do well in Forbiter or Sonica unless it's like Chloe, right? Chloe that can single target and AoE at the same time, whereas he is just pure AoE. So yeah, he doesn't see much use in PvE except for towers. He is perfect for the Calamity towers because he provides silence and he deals true damage. He's good for all of the towers actually. Temporal, Infinity, Calamity, all of this he is very good in. But in Ritual Miracle, he doesn't see much use, and everywhere else he doesn't see much use as well. And priority 3 is going to be Changji, but only if you can R2 him. If you cannot R2 him, maybe if you can get him at R0 or R1, I wouldn't say he's priority 3. I would say he's probably like priority 5 or even 6. But if you can R2 him, he's going to be priority 3 because he is very good in PvP. You can slot him in a tank team, but most of the time you're gonna want to slot him in Nusi team. If you have a Nusi, him plus Nusi is going to be one of the best comps that you can run. When Nusi takes a turn and she does the increased cooldown on the enemies, she will get countered by a bunch, and then he will swap the HP of Nusi. He will swap it with a unit that has high HP, and then that unit could potentially just get one-shotted. But if you cannot get him at R2, he is not really that worth it. He's just a nuker at the end of the day at R0 and nothing much. He is good for towers because his AP swapping at R2 works on flaws with AP manipulation resistance. So yeah, if you want to use him in towers, he's good for that one. Calamity, he's okay. He does very good AoE damage, but currently the Inferno tower is a little bit wonky because there's not that many AoE defense breaker, and it's not reliable as well. So that's why he suffers a little bit in Calamity tower, because the typing doesn't have that many AoE defense breaker. Right now in Sonica, he has been replaced with Renzi. Renzi is just far better than him. Even Donar is far better than him because they have their own buff, or Renzi has their own defense break, whereas he needs both of those elements. He needs a defense buffer and a defense breaker in the team. So if you run a Donar, you don't need a defense buffer, you don't need the Fatum Sisters, and you can run something else. And if you run a Renzi, you don't need a defense breaker, and you can run someone else in that slot, right? Whereas he needs both. So he has been replaced in Sonica. He doesn't see any use in the Falsetto Fantasy, not in Ritual Miracle, not in Desolate Lands, and yeah, pretty much anywhere else. If you don't have enough to R2 CJ, then this guy is going to be your third priority. You just need him to be at R0. His R2 adds his damage quite a bit, but R0 is all you really need him to be at. And the reason is because he is a single target boss killer. In future trials, he has a place. If you do build him up with the Divinists, he could be useful there. In Celestial Anomaly, there's a high chance that he's going to be good because the boss most of the time will be able to debuff, and he thrives off that, because if you can debuff the boss, then he's going to do a shit ton of damage. So in Celestial Anomaly, there is a high chance that he's going to be good, but in PvP, he doesn't see any use. He hasn't been used in any team in PvP or knockout. Yeah, so you don't really see any use in PvP. But in PvE, he is used in all Falsetto Fantasy, Forbiter, Sonica, Dark Starlord, and then in Ritual Miracle, he is used for Fafnir as the fastest team, and Desolate Lands, he is good for the Shadow Gale, or Shadow Stream, sorry. So yeah, he's going to be your third priority, or fourth if you can go for R2 CJ, and then fifth priority is going to be this guy. Yes, he's quite down the line, or fourth or fifth, depending on your R2 CJ. This guy is quite down the line if you want to R0 him. R0, I think he's not that good because he eats up way too many turns on contents that you don't want to. His kit looks like a bossing kit because he needs to debuff the enemies a lot with the convict status. And yeah, in PvP, debuffs is kinda iffy because Jin Qiu is running around rampant, so debuffs don't land. And in PvE, bossing contest is where you want this debuff to land, right? But the main setback is his bonus turn. He spams it a little bit too much that I don't think he's going to be that good for Falsetto Fantasy, except for Dark Starlord. He does have a pretty good attack lead for those Falsetto Fantasy. And at R0, like I said, he is just a DPS character. You already have a ton of DPS characters for the Falsetto Fantasy, but at R2, he might be really good. Depending on how much of a boost that R2 really is to your entire team. He could be used in all 3 Falsetto Fantasy. Even if he eats up a turn every 2 turns because he's casting the S2, right? If he boosts the teammates enough, that turn count that he eats up doesn't really matter. So I think at R2 he's going to be used with Embla. Embla is a perfect unit to go for because Embla does a lot of debuffs with the bleed, with the stuff and everything. Brewster is going to be good. He provides buff, crit rate buff, and also defense break. So he's going to apply a lot of debuffs on the boss, giving you more stacks. Hilda is also very good in the Forbidden team. Dark Starlord, I think he's going to be insane in the Team 1. Currently, Team 1 Dark Starlord, if you go with like the standard Meredith, 2 poison units with Jin Qiu and Biondina, that team gets you around 2 million on Team 1. And if you have an R2 Unas in place of Jin Qiu or something, then you can get 3 million damage. But I think with this guy, even at R0, I think you can easily push to 3 million because the Team 1 has 150 turns that you can eat up. So he can actually just go crazy, and his S1 does AoE damage if he has the Punish Evil effect. And he's also going to be spamming his S1, right? His S1 and S3, he's going to be gaining a bunch of turns, doing a lot of AoE damage, doing true damage, and also when the boss takes a turn, he takes 4% of the max HP. It's kind of like a poison in a way. Team 1, I think he's going to be very good in. In Celestial Anomaly, it's still not going to be solidified because Celestial Anomaly could change. But if Celestial Anomaly retains the turn limit counter, like 120 turns, I don't think he's going to be good. So yeah, we're going to have to see. In PvP, he has the Bruiser Syndrome, which is needing every single stats that he needs. So unless you have him at R6, he's not going to really work. Or maybe R5, just for that extra stats. And also Divinate, and also, you know, the new System Material Research Lab. If you don't have those, I don't think he's going to work. Even at R2, I don't think he's going to do anything for you in PvP because he doesn't have debuff immune. You can build him with like full defense, but then again, if he gets stuns, he's not going to be moving. Without the extra stats, he's just going to die. Maybe you could find some teams in Point War or Knockout, but he is a debuff dependent unit, and Jin Qiu is running rampant in Point War and Knockout. So yeah, it's a little bit iffy in PvP. So yeah, that's about it for the new unit. And the least priority is going to be Tang Xuan. If you have an unlimited amount of wish stones, then go for him. If you don't, then don't, just skip him. He's not worth it. But yeah, that's about it. Also, if you're contemplating on summoning on Ana or not, currently we have the rate up for Ana. Let me just show you one thing. Yeah, I only lose against Ana comps, and the rest I just sometimes I lose against Tolan, but I think he manual the fight or something. And yeah, if you're still contemplating on summoning on Ana or Unas, just go for Ana. You're not gonna regret it. Also, I forgot to mention this, if you don't want to summon for any of them, just take a look at the PvP nodes, right? If you are a PvP player, take a look at the PvP nodes, see which one has the units that is in the wish pool, and whether you have that unit or not. So for example, like one of these towers have the units in the event, for example Changji. If you don't have a Changji, it could be worth it to just go for Changji just to unlock this node. If you don't have a Zhongnan at resonance 1, then you might want to go for Changji just because of this. Yeah, okay, so far only Changji is in the wish pool that is in the PvP node. So if you want to think about it, you might want to go for Changji, but it requires resonance 1, so keep that in mind. If you don't have a Changji, then you go for R0 Changji. You will still not unlock this. Then you would need either Zhongnan at resonance 1 or either Changji at resonance 1, right? So yeah, keep that in mind. If you don't really know who to summon for, take a look at these towers, these nodes for the PvP ones in particular, and make your decision based on that. But yeah, that's about it. Ciao.